So we all are familiar with the LAAT gunship used by the Republic during the Clone Wars. It is arguably one of the best and most capable gunships in galactic history. Well, today we're going to take a look at exactly how the Empire replaced that famous gunship. I'm Colin, and this is Sci-Fi Deep Dive. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, to head down below and hit that subscribe button. So we see the LAAT used in nearly every battle during the Clone Wars. It filled every role from a troop transport to a gunship, playing a direct combat role in engagements. And it was, in a lot of ways, a near-perfect gunship, being able to transport a large number of troops as well as carry a variety of munitions to engage many different types of hostiles. So how exactly did the Galactic Empire replace the famous LAAT? Well, let's start out with why they replaced it. The LAAT being so common made it sort of an icon of the Republic during the war. Basically, a lot of planets would have associated the LAAT with the Republic during the Clone Wars and with sort of salvation from the Separatists. And as many of us are aware, the Empire is at this point actively trying to sort of separate its image from that of the Galactic Republic. So, what did they replace it with? Well, let's start with a different gunship that actually is still part of the LAAT family. The LAAT LE, which is the patrol variant of the LAAT. We actually do see this variant of the gunship used very briefly in the Clone Wars, where it seems to fill more of a civilian policing role. We see them used by the Coruscant Police and, on occasions, the Coruscant Guard. While it is considered to be part of the LAAT family, it's vastly different in visual appearance, having a much more slimmed down sort of profile and an entirely different look altogether. It actually kind of looks a little closer to a TIE fighter than one of the Republic-era gunships. However, it does have some significant disadvantages. Its smaller size meant its troop carrying capacity was significantly reduced as opposed to its Clone Wars-era counterpart. And because of its smaller size and sort of design, which intended it to be used in civil policing roles, it's not nearly as well armed as the traditional LAAT. So, the LAAT LE did find its way into sort of policing roles and would continue to be used well into the reign of the Empire. In fact, we do see it used on Lothal a few years before the Battle of Yavin. However, the Empire replaced the LAAT in its combat role with an entirely different vessel altogether. A vessel that is remarkably different from the LAAT. Now, while the Republic-era gunship was a straight-up gunship designed to drop troops right into the thick of combat, the Empire replaced it with the Sentinel-Class landing craft, which is a much larger vessel derived not from the LAAT, but Old Republic shuttles. It bears a lot of similarities to other Imperial shuttles like the Lambda-class shuttle, and is manufactured by the same company. Now, the Sentinel-Class was significantly larger than the LAAT, which played into its advantages, which mostly were tied to troop carrying capacity. The Sentinel could carry close to 100 stormtroopers into battle, but there's a trade-off. It's larger, it's harder to maneuver, it generally lands in a vague area instead of dropping the troops right where they need to be. Its weapons are not as geared towards engaging ground targets and are more sort of suited for defending the shuttle as it's on its way towards the landing zone, mostly against other air targets. Another big disadvantage was the size of its unloading doors. While they were about the same size as the doors on the LAAT, the carrying capacity of the Sentinel was significantly larger. This meant when the vehicle had to unload its troops in combat, it was a longer process. But to make up for that, it did provide better protection for the troops inside. While the LAAT would often leave its troops basically completely exposed, the Sentinel was mostly enclosed and would allow the troops to be relatively safe until they left the vehicle. So the Sentinel is drastically different from the Clone Wars era LAAT. Their ability to unload and their uses in combat are almost completely different, but it reflects a key doctrinal shift in how the military would be used. The Empire would use their military more in a policing fashion and really didn't need sort of combat gunships very often. In most situations, it was easier to either assault with just a massive number of stormtroopers, or carry out a heavy mechanized assault using things like walkers. As such, the sort of faster and more nimble gunships used during the Clone Wars were just not as useful to the Empire. All in all, this is just one of the major changes that the Empire made to their military to sort of distance themselves from the Republic. If you want to learn about some of the changes the Imperial Navy underwent to distance itself from the Republic Navy, I'll leave a link up here to my video on that. And I want you to let me know down in the comments whether you think replacing the LAAT was a good idea. Do you think it was just such a good gunship that the Empire should have just kept using it regardless, or do you understand why the Empire got rid of it? And if you have any topics from Star Wars you'd like to see me cover, leave them down below in the comments. And last but not least, if you enjoyed this video, head down below, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. So for Sci-Fi Deep Dive, I'm Colin, and I will see you next time.